Yeah, I'm recording. Okay, yeah, welcome all. Happy Saturday. Welcome to our Regenerative Neighborhood Framework call series, gathering of a community of community creators, people in different branches of this movement, buying land, building homes, building communities with each other, people looking for places like this, service providers that have skills and products to share with the development of regenerative neighborhoods, living places
Darren,
that have
how are you?
resilient systems for water, food, energy, waste, housing, and most specifically, human systems, the way that we interact with each other to accomplish goals together, get through the hard times, and celebrate the good times. My name is Oscar. I am part of the Regen Tribe Collective. I've been on this journey for 4 years now, exploring the world of eco villages, startup cities, and everything in between. Again, people coming together, finding their tribe, finding their people, and deciding to collaborate on the place that they live, how they live, and the things that they do together. Today is Saturday, so let's share first the Miro board. I'm going to share a link to the Miro board. Every Saturday, we are hosting calls to explore specific topics. The 5 macro components. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see kind of the small intro since we have some new participants today. In the chat, there's a link to the Miro board. Sonia just shared it. I invite you guys to join the Miro board and explore it with us. I'm just giving a little preview of it so you can see. These are the 5 macro categories that we have been covering starting January and going all the way through April. Ecology, hardware, human systems, economy, and software. This week, we are on the second call of economy. We've been doing 2 calls per macro topic. On the first call, we usually discuss all of the subcategories in each one of these macro categories. For example, in economy, we're going to discuss currency and value exchange, financial management, economy and trade, investment models, ownership models, and land purchase. These are all topics that have come up over and over and over again on our journey, meeting people, building neighborhoods, starting their own communities, living in projects like this, and all have resources, guides, books, and different practices that they have worked on to successfully create their locations, and also want to share with the community. Our goal with this is to gather all these resources and create a tool, a framework that allows a new person interested in planning, designing, and building their community to have a lot of the knowledge that is already there and scattered across the internet and across different places at their disposal to create more of these locations, regenerative neighborhoods. We see them as a solution to all of the meta crisis that is happening today: water scarcity, food supply chain issues, housing, connection to the self, connection to each other, all of that. Over the last few weeks, we've been going through these calls. Every call has a section on the board. I'm giving a little tour so everyone can see my screen, or if you're already on the Miro board, good job. Yeah, let me make sure everybody's let into the call. 1 second. Yeah, there's a couple people. Carl's there. Cool. Okay, yeah, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, so that was call 1 and 2. We kind of did goal setting and a little bit of strategy on what a framework should be. The next 2 calls, 3 and 4, were on ecology and discussing the subtopics, identifying others, and then also gathering resources. Resources being any kind of Google Doc, a PDF, book, video, maybe an existing project that you know of. Each call has an area to the left of it, this like white area here, where you can share links and topics relating to that macro topic. This one was hardware, for example. We went through hardware topics and collected resources. That was the following 2 weeks. Then we did human systems, where we really dove into values and principles and how all of that dictates the thing that we're doing here, which is creating a plan and some sort of guiding tool to help others create their communities. This week, we're on economy. Last week, we started the conversation where we explored the macro topics of economy. These are the main ones that stood out to us and that we've started discussing. By no way is this like a fully comprehensive list. We're open to adding more topics, reorganizing things. It's a collective effort. And more so, we are leveraging LLMs. We're using AI tools to help make sense of this information, organize it well. Ian is going to present something he's been working on in a few minutes. I want to do a quick moment of making sure everybody's in. Here's Vic. Cool. There's 13 of us on the call. Beautiful. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. We have some new participants. Usually we'll go into breakout rooms and do little intros for about 4 or 5 minutes. I'm going to set up these breakout rooms real quick. Let everybody know your name, what brought you to this call, and potentially something you're very excited to discuss or share. We'll do about an hour of structured call where we go through these subtopics. And then after the structured call, we do an experience called open space, which another participant suggested. And we more openly discuss all of the things that came up during the call. And if someone is passionate about going deeper into conversation, we kick off a little breakout room, and anyone that wants to dive into that topic can go in and discuss that, and then close that group and bring it back to the main group and share their discoveries or their findings. So I'm going to kick off with a breakout group with breakout rooms. There's 13 of us, so I'm going to do about 4 of them. Give me 1 second. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is too much. Okay, I'm going to do 4. If you're in a room with just note takers, feel free to jump out and jump into another group. I'm going to go ahead and assign everyone automatically. Introduce yourself, share what you're excited about. I'm going to give it 5-6 minutes, so everyone has about 1.5 minutes to share, and we'll meet back in the main group in about 6 minutes. So I'll see you guys soon. All right, that's sending everyone. Yeah. Oh, cool. Eric, Dan. All right, Dr. Brian, I see your Firefly is still in this room, and that's great. It's just me in here waiting for anyone else to join the call. All right, we're back. We're back. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the main room. Nice to see everyone in here. Let's see, is everyone back from the breakout groups? Yes. They're all shut down. Okay, cool. So, beautiful to see some new faces in here. Beautiful to see some recurring faces and like our day ones that have been joining the calls. Today's topic is economy, and we're going to dive into that now. I'm going to be sharing my screen here. So there's a link in the chat for the mural board. I hope everyone has access to that. Let me make sure. Let me repost that link. Give me 1 second here. I'm sharing my screen. We do collective work. Okay, cool. Sonia shared that. I'm going to drop it again. Okay,
For
cool.
the ones of you that are on mobile, it's going to be hard for you to navigate.
Right.
So you can just post answers or thoughts in the chat here on Zoom, and we're going to post it on the board.
Yes. Okay, I'm also going to be sharing a link to our Telegram where a lot of all the follow-up conversation and chats happen here. Telegram, Regen Tribe. There's been a lot going on in there as we've been working through all of this.
Retribalized podcast.
Say again?
I think that might have been just an accident.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so I'm heading over here to the mural board. So economy, you guys. We all know what economy is. Last week we got into a bit of more the theoretical side of like what is economy interrelate with the other macro categories of ecology, hardware, human systems, technology. We went into each one of these subcategories as we kicked off our conversation to, so
Oscar, just letting you know
with
your
this
connection's real choppy, man.
Of money, exchange, ownership, value.
Oscar, turn off your screen. Oscar, turn off your screen. You're cutting out. Turn off your screen.
Turned it off. It's gone. It's gone.
He did.
Well done, froze.
Yeah.
He's back.
I'm trying to reset Wi-Fi. Give me a second, you guys. I'm so sorry. Is my audio a little better now?
Yeah, just don't move.
How's my audio? Is my audio okay?
Yeah, your audio is better now.
Okay,
Better.
cool.
One hand, two hand. Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so discussing these topics and discussing this process of gathering resources and solutions, our full intention is to be tech integrated and leverage the power of LLMs. Ian, one of the community members, has been very excited and with the inspiration of others like Vic and how we graph knowledge and connection to each other and connection to information. Ian, I'd love for you to share your screen and share exactly what this is looking like right now. Go ahead and give a little background and like, so you guys can see what the result is, why we're so excited to harvest everyone's knowledge base, linked list, and experiences. And you can see how this LLM is starting to make sense of all that data. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, cool. So when I rocked up to the Regen Tribe's Telegram, I kind of just came more actively involved, just pure timing. Like OpenClaw was popping off. OpenClaw is like a bot that you can interact with via Telegram. So I was experimenting with it. Same time interacting on Regen Tribe, and then it just and I saw another group, bonfires.ai, that are doing something really, really interesting with bots and knowledge graphs as well. And it kind of just inspired to see like, well, if Oscar's collecting all of this information via these framework calls and he's processing it via LLMs, maybe it makes sense that we try to create a database, like a knowledge graph, that we can become that sort of central place for archiving all of that knowledge rather than it sitting in a Google Drive. And so we started doing that with OpenClaw. Another member of the Regen tribes is Vitali, based in Poland. Very knowledgeable developer. He started using the OpenClaw bot that we've called Genesis. So Genesis Zero Bot is the handle on the Telegram that you can just like have a conversation with. Vitali just started vibe coding with that thing to build the infrastructure. And then, he spent about two days on that. The bro like didn't sleep. I was like, Vitali, go to sleep. So he was in the zone, and it just pulled it all together. And then I've just kind of been spending the last 2 days just rounding that off, like just kind of getting it to the end. And so you can access that now on graph.regentribe.org. Oscar created the domain for us. So I'll share my screen, but you can also look at it yourself if you want to. So I'm going sharing my screen, changing screen, refresh. Okay, so it says connecting to knowledge graph. And so here you go. This is just a 3D visualization of all of the knowledge that's been ingested by the Genesis bot. This includes all the framework calls that Oscar's been recording, processing. So it includes that data. Each one of these nodes represents a concept on the right-hand key here. So an orange is a system. So if I click on it, it highlights the systems. If I zoom in, I can see what one is. So water system. So what's connected to water system is the 5 pillars, food system, processes, entities, attributes, ideas. So yeah, this has been connected to Genesis bot, which is the bot on Telegram. This is its knowledge brain, effectively. So you can say to Genesis, hey, ingest this PDF and highlight the main points. And then in the chat, it'll tell you the main points, and then it'll add it to this graph, and then it'll kind of make connections and kind of see things that we might not be seeing. So I'm not fully, I don't really have a clear vision or picture of like what we can use this for, but I just kind of saw a need for a place to store all of our knowledge that we're collecting and talking about and having all these ideas, just so that it's not kind of coming in and then kind of getting forgotten or like, getting siloed somewhere. So I'm noticing this happening across many groups, and people are there's a lot of effort in the AI developer space to create these brains or memory databases for their AIs. So it's quite cool that Regen's tribe has got one now, and I'm excited to see where we take it next. Over to you, Oscar.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Rose, you have a question?
Yeah, like what orders the information in that display? Like, is there a axes that, like, how does it get ordered in the 3D space?
It's a concept of nodes and edges. And so a node is like what it perceives as, like, my understanding is it perceives it as like if you're making a bulleted list of topics, each one is a node. And if a topic relates to another topic in some way, it connects an edge to it. So it's like dots with lines connected. Okay. So it's kind of like an abstract, it's really like a brain and a bunch of like, points in your brain that are interconnected with each other.
An advanced mind map, and it's self-relational. So it's looking at common names, right? So I don't know if semantic yet, but words that correlate, and then it'll draw a line from one to the other. So like a mind map, but way more complex.
Thanks. Good enough.
And so the beauty of that is every call we've been collecting resources, which we're going to have a little window where we do 2-minute sprints for each one of those subtopics you saw. And if you guys have any links or any projects you know of that are doing any of those things well, we're going to invite you to drop those links onto the Miro board or here into the chat, and someone can help transfer that over. But the goal is to make sense of all of the knowledge that's out there for supporting people in creating their blueprint, right? The design and plan to create their physical community, their physical location. That's the end game. Creating not just one, but facilitating many people to create their physical locations and then having some kind of network between these physical projects. That's, I would say, the vision long term. And to arrive there, our mission at the moment is to gather resources and create very useful tools for individuals to leverage all of that knowledge. Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, Rose, to answer your question, I just went into the Regen group Telegram and I said at Genesis 0 bot. So I'm doing the handle to the bot in the chat, and I said, how are graph nodes connected? What relationships is it mapping? And then it just replies. And so I've pasted that response into our Zoom chat so you can see. And so I'd encourage anyone to join the Telegram, interact with the Genesis bot, send it information that you think is valuable to the collective knowledge. And yeah, let's just, run the experiment. Let's just see what becomes useful to the collective tribes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I definitely see a point coming soon where we're going to be transitioning where we're not so much putting stuff on the Miro board anymore, or maybe, yeah, but potentially just using the Telegram as the interface, where when something comes up, someone shares it and adds Genesis bot and has it integrated into its knowledge base. I think, like, do you think we're ready to do that now, Ian? Like, for example, Rose has a mind for economy. So potentially, if Rose, you had a great PDF or book, digital format that you could share, that's something that could be uploaded to the chat. This LLM AI agent has skills that have been installed into it so that it can take a PDF, read that PDF, take out main points and put those points into the knowledge graph, and then also relate those points to other points on the graph. As an example, if you, in one of the economy papers, discussed how important water is, and that water is the economy of the future, it would inevitably link some point of knowledge to the water point, as it's one of its dependencies or relationships.
And do you mean chat in Telegraph?
In Telegram, yeah,
Telegram.
Yeah. I've shared a link to it. I'll share it again just so everyone has it.
Oscar, I mean, did you use the term Telegram as the network that binds?
Telegram is just the chat, but right now it's working as an interface. Like usually you'd go to a website and type stuff in and send it to the website, and it would give you back results. Right now we're using Telegram as that interface. So there's no website, there's no landing page for it. We're using the chat room, and you can say at Genesis bot and say make sense of this PDF and add it to the resources, and put the link to the PDF if it lives online. We did it with a Google folder, a Google Drive folder that has all of the resources that we've been pulling out of the Miro board and injecting into these bots to see how they can help us. Okay, so we're going to dive into this topic. Does anyone have any questions, any reflections? There's a lot going on in the digital techie space. Yeah, Stefan, go ahead.
Yeah, would it make sense to show a quick demo on how to use it in Telegram? How to feed it with something or how to ask something?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, Ian, you wanna do a little showcase of that? You wanna share your Telegram screen and like I have a file here on my computer.
Yeah. I don't have any file that I might be good.
Okay. I have something interesting. I have the, let me see where it is in my computer.
I'll share mine and I'll just do some queries. And
yeah, go ahead.
We'll just do it in the general chat, Oscar, and then we'll see your responses from my share screen.
Cool.
So,
cool.
Okay, so I'll share. Okay, so this is Regen Tribe's Telegram group.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the main channel here. And so I could say @ and you can see it's trying to look at all the members, and then I just say Genesis. So then I click on it. So now this message is going specifically to the bot. If you try to send a message to the bot without adding its handle, it won't recognize what you're saying. It's only listening to when it's selected by its handle. So I could say, tell me. Oh well, so yeah, cool. So Oscar just did a dump, and he dropped in some files and said, please add this to the knowledge. And you can see up the top here that Genesis is typing. So that's basically Genesis going away to process Oscar's request. And what will be interesting is if that starts to pop up in here real time. We kind of asked Claude Code to make it so that they pop up in real time, but haven't tested that yet.
Yeah, so it's really, really, really powerful what's happening here, right? I would say this is like some of the cutting edge stuff that's happening with AI and LLMs, where there's now, it's pretty much like having a little personal assistant that lives in there, and it is processing data, deciding what of those points should be nodes on this graph and how they interrelate to other nodes. So that's super fascinating.
Yeah, it's just a very flash database. Yeah, it's effectively a database.
Right. Right. And this is just a visualization for that database.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll add the profiling that I'm doing along with Ian's support. I almost see this as an overlay to this tool, where this tool is creating informational connectivity. The profiling will then take and peopleize it. So it will actually make connections with people to the information and people to people who have information. Again, the thinking of relational is a higher order than informational. So we'll see how that goes, huh, Ian?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, we're also, Vic and I are working on a side project that's focusing mainly on people connections. So that'll be really interesting to see. And Vic's got his own ontology for that. So yeah, I'm super excited about that one. Oscar, I think we probably should have done one file.
Yeah. I think that was too much. I'm realizing that. I'm seeing it's like, yeah, I just dropped my whole folder in there to see what would happen.
Cool. But yeah, guys, this literally we just finished this today.
It's adding them in real time. Look at the concepts and relations. It just incremented by a bunch.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's incrementing in real time. So it's processing right now, I think. It's reading everything. And
can you, are there any examples you can think of how this has led to, other than what you just showed me in the chat, which is wonderful?
What would be a good example, Rose? I'll type it in right now.
Well, how is this meaningful for you? You've got this database. What is it? You just mentioned, Oscar, you mentioned water. What can this tell me about water?
Let's see. Making a framework for
So Rose, I just said at Genesis Zerobot, what I forgot to do. I said what you know about what.
Yeah, that might be vast.
Yeah. I think
I'm curious to see.
I think I'm just asking for a use case, and this might not be the right place to do it. We're here to talk about economics. So maybe that's another session. I don't want to distract.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll just
yeah,
say
and
that
so
we could talk about it. We could talk about it in an open space, which is after this session. We could have a breakout room to go deep into it. But I just kind of want to say that we've literally we saw a need for like a knowledge database, and we just finished building that database, and we haven't even explored use cases yet. Like this is probably the first query that I've personally made. What you know about water. So it's super early days.
Okay, fair enough.
and so Rose, actually, I love the question. I'm sharing here. I just asked in the Telegram specifically, right? If our goal is to make a framework for designing a community and operating a community, I've now asked it specifically. Hey, I'm going to drop the conversation here. What would you suggest for us to do in designing a framework for the economic models? And I'm gonna paste it right now. It's in the bot playground channel if you're in there, but I'm gonna paste it here so you can see it. I don't know why I can't paste the answer it gave me. Give me a second.
I can read it quickly if I
Okay,
can.
yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so the economic practices framework for regenerative neighborhoods. 1, exchanging currency. Local currency or time banking system is an option. Complementary currency options, tokens, community credits, or barter and skill sharing networks. The second is ownership and governance, commons-based ownership models, land trusts, community land trusts, cooperative structures, worker, consumer, housing co-ops, economic decision-making, how resources get allocated by whom and with what transparency. They have a value measurement is the third. The options list is move beyond gross domestic product, genuine progress, well-being metrics. So looking at the well-being of its population. Value ecosystem services, what is the sector contributing? Track material loops, what is being recycled, what is imported, what is exported? Resource circulations, circular economy principles based into design, waste as a resource systems, compost, gray water materials, local production thresholds, what percentage of food and energy and goods should be local. 5, labor and contribution, blended work, paid, contributed, volunteered, skill matching, work exchange platform, recognition systems for non-monetized labor, care work, community building. 6, finance and investment, community investment vehicles, micro lending, crowdfunding, local fund, patient capital, revolving loans, profit sharing or benefit corporation structures. 7, energy and food economics, energy cooperatives, local generation, peer-to-peer trading, food systems, CSAs, food hubs, urban ag cost structures. And it asks if you want to dig any deeper, but if we dug deeper, it probably would give us some pretty valuable information. I would like to put some information to it. I'm not a coder like Ian or Vitali, but I do enjoy asking it philosophical questions and questions of a spiritual nature. So I'm as curious to see its responses and sometimes have a pretty interesting dialogue with the mirror there. So,
You know,
And
and
it's a really
I'll add
cool.
it in terms of how this can be used, or I see it midterm even being one of the most important uses of it is in decision making. So if we're in a process and we're about this topic and we've got to do something about it, we want to gather as much information as we can. So this is very broad, right? It's the scan level. And then bring it into a focus that is related to our community's need, right? And then correlate the information that is available to actually act on something or vote on or make a decision or design a project management system around it. So it can dramatically accelerate that whole process and be more effective because we have healthier, broader sets of data. We're not deciding in a limited environment.
apparently it's not absorbed.
Cool. Yeah, so it now it's also absorbed some of the transcripts that I submitted, and now it's starting to share things about the water question. So it's like this, little assistant that's in there helping. Go ahead, Stefan.
Yeah, another use case that I have in mind that I would like to share probably is where it becomes super powerful is when it has information about about a specific community.
Sure.
So about the financials, maybe how much do they have in their treasure? What's the environment? Are they in the jungle? What's their values? How many people there are? So it can propose
Right.
different systems that fit perfectly into that situation, and that feeds off the database that is currently created. That is, I think, where it becomes really powerful, and where it can become even better by just using it. No.
Yeah, totally. I see this as, the evolution of our journey has been, okay, what tools would be the most helpful for a group of people starting their own community? And as we are prototyping this new technology for our community, right, the 15 of us in this room right now, talking, sharing ideas, gathering resources, it's going to help us make sense of that. And each call will be a transcript of data that's uploaded to it. Traditionally, all of this data would get lost because it starts, LLMs only can process so much and some of it gets cut off. But with this knowledge graph, it's a way for the LLM to save things in its brain in the way that we remember things and use them and apply them later on. And this, I feel, in a few steps down the line, becomes a really awesome product that can be shared with physical communities and that group of individuals to help them have this community assistant, community agent kind of tool.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I want to add, because Stefan, that was a great insight, what you were saying. And again, I foresee in the vision that we've got the data of different topics here, but we don't have the people. So Stefan, suddenly the profiler that Ian and I are working on allows us to profile ourselves and then do a similar thing with the people, not just the information or concepts. And they coagulate into different communities or micro communities defined, right? So there's certain boundaries, and suddenly that's a signature of, say, your community, Stefan, and you're in it, and you've got 12 other people in it, and you're about to grow a garden. How do we, So then the profiler overlapping this existing data set, you can now find information and the people that have shared it because they've probably done what you're looking for already before, right? And to me, that's what's going to really make communities come alive. I'm really excited.
Yeah, same. Dan, you have your hand up?
Yes, I had also thought about a use case that makes it really interesting to me. It's like that now there's this super brain in the cloud that has all information, but every individual, no matter their mental capacity to comprehend information, their cultural background, whatever they have, they can have like their own individual interface to consume the data, be it in audio, be it in text, be it maybe they render some kind of explanatory video, but they can really localize, do that. And then when someone is in Spain, they can say, I'm in this dry climate, please help me plant the right trees or something. Or we have 20 people and everybody brings in this amount of money. What can we do? Like it can so individualize the process of helping sprouting the community in such sophisticated ways that, so I see also really the potential in it can be really practical when you connect it to these individualized agents that people can interface with that are connected to this super brain. Yeah.
Exactly, Dan. Bingo. Nicely said.
And I just wanted to, one more thing. I know we should be getting to the economics, but I mean, I think the value of being able to input information about direct, the data that you harvest from your own farm or your own land and whatever climate that you are, you can input that data, and that could be cross-section reference, like, oh, our kale did very well here, or our barley crop did well here, and put in that information farther, and then that could build on to such a thing. So I think that will be a useful use case scenario.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so that's very exciting. We definitely spent more time on that. Right now, I want to take a bit of advantage of all the amazing people that are here, and I want to pick your brains on specific things. this call today is specifically around us harvesting our collective knowledge about topics. Again, the call to action here is, if you have any links saved in your bookmarks, if you know of any projects that are doing this kind of thing, maybe service providers, I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to go maybe just 2 minutes instead of 3 minutes to give everyone time. Let's do that. It's okay. This topic here of currency and value exchange. Last week, what did we talk about? Currency and value exchange, like what constitutes wealth. We explored that a bit. So currency and value exchange, maybe like, do you know of any projects that are doing really awesome experiments with creating a type of currency to do value exchange? One example of one I knew of recently was the Seeds project, which I think has evolved now. I think Dr. Brian, you told us about the new evolution. What is it? A common ground, local commons, something like that. But the goal right now is going to be, I'm going to set a timer and we're going to go topic by topic. We're going to do 2 minutes on currency and value exchange. I'd love for you guys to be on the Miro board here. I'm going to bring you all over to my screen, bring everyone to me. Okay. And I'd love for you guys to drop in here what the topic of currency and value exchange is to you, projects you know of that offer solutions for this, right? Like obviously the big one that we all know, Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin is an epic example of a new currency and a value exchange system that's been created. If you know of any, whether it's maybe you know of a land project, for example, in Portugal, there's a place called Traditional Dream Factory. And they're doing an awesome model of selling tokens that represent one night stay at their location. Awesome example of a type of currency value exchange. If you guys have any examples, I'm setting this timer for 2 minutes, and I invite you to share any links to projects that you know of. Any books, maybe you have of a really great book that discusses what currency is and how currency has evolved over the millennia of humanity. Go ahead and drop that in here as well. Our big vision is that all of these resources will get added to this brain in some way and expand its knowledge base, right? We're teaching our digital assistant things that it could need to help others create their blueprint. So go ahead. We have about 1:25. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them or share whatever you're excited about. We have a new participant in here. With it. All right. I need to add these 2 links. Okay, so currency value exchange, I see a few links there for a few new things. That's awesome. Demo to see the concept. I don't remember, Dr. Brian, was that you that suggested this new, the evolution of seeds? And what is the name of that one? Do you remember? I don't know if that was you that told us about that one. Future thinkers. Okay, so next one. Financial management, another crucial component of community design, community development, and operations. Ways that we track our expenses, our income, and any of these, practical, very real accounting metrics. I'm going to set this timer for 2 minutes again. And so this is just a blitz where we're dropping links. Even feel free to drop thoughts that you have, right, about financial management, right? Maybe you know of a good piece of software that helps people track their expenses. I'm running the timer. Okay, financial management tools and solutions for financial management. Anything that you know of.
I'm going to share the seeds, Telegram, and Discord into
Cool.
the chat.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
I believe it's the same organization referenced.
Oh, local scale. That's it. Local scale. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, local scale is like creating an economy system that is. Sorry. Splitwise, yeah, that's a good example, right? Splitwise is a perfect idea, like example of a good tool that helps with financial management. Yeah, great one. Yeah, and so we'll get through these next 4 rounds of link sharing, and then we'll have open space time, which is we'll discuss any of the topics that have come to mind. So keep those on the top of your head, and we're going to have time to discuss this as a group and go into breakout groups if you want to have more focused discussion on it.
And I think Stefan will be presenting as well. Is that
right? And we have a presentation from Stefan, who's joining us with his project Eco Hubs, and he'll be sharing a bit about that. I'm super excited about some of the things he's built and excited to integrate that into our collective as well. Okay, financial management. Yeah, splitwise, free association, interplay. Cool. Gnosis. Nice. Nice. All right. All right. Moving on. Economy and trade. So economy and trade is kind of a macro topic as I see it. It's knowledge that needs to be discussed in the planning and design of a community. How will you generate revenue for yourselves? How will you create a product that elicits outsiders coming in to leave money with the community? So any ideas on that? I'm setting the timer for 2 minutes. Maybe, projects doing a great job of this. I'm going to share a project in Bali. Maybe you have examples of businesses that you have seen work in community. And go ahead and drop all this stuff. They're all data points that are going to be feeding this LLM brain that now exists thanks to Ian and Vic and Vic.
One thing too, Dr. Seuss meme got me laughing with Vic and Vitali. We got the
V and V. Yeah.
V and V.
Yeah, I joked around because I think we are becoming thing 1 and thing 2 from Dr. Seuss. So V1 and V2.
Yeah,
I like it.
I did notice some of the trying to map out any confusion that the Genesis bot has between us different members. It gave me a really broad scope of designation, and I was like, "Oh, I'm just studying this. I'm no expert." But like some of the things that I had uploaded, it had reformed to the Miro document, and I didn't read the content that I put forward, so I won't hammer that out in the future.
We also need to correlate the data and the information with who is giving it. So it should already be tagged in Telegram, right? But I think, it will be important when the profiling comes in and we tie them together, the personal and profiling. Ian, I don't know if you're still there, but maybe that's something we could talk about. later.
Okay, nice. We got a few
Yeah,
links in
for
there.
sure.
Cool. Yeah, thank you guys for like being sports and going through these like section by section. Okay, investment models. This is an important one, right? Ways that money can be pooled, used effectively to generate more wealth, to generate more value. If you have any ideas, if you know of any great projects, please drop links. Setting the timer for 2 minutes and running it. This is our resource gathering sprint. Okay, cool. Okay, 1 minute. I have a bunch of links. Okay, so that was investment models. Investment models and ownership models, I'm kind of like mixing up a little bit. So I'm going to set this timer as well for 2 minutes. This one is now more specifically on ownership models, right? How can community members all collectively own or steward the land that we're living on, right? Everything from owning shares in a top company that owns the land to literally each person owns their own parcel of land and they just all share the purchase of one plot where they share responsibilities for. Any ideas or things that you know of, please drop them in here, you guys. Ownership models. Shares in a cooperative. Okay, housing cooperative. This is 1 million. Ownership and HOAs. Okay. Okay, cool. I see this one's like going really good. There's a lot of examples for this, and I've seen some really good ones in lots of places, and I've seen really bad ones. And I think a hybrid of lots of them is good. Okay. All right. Our final one is land purchase, which kind of also overlaps with ownership models. For land purchase, maybe what we can do here is strategies to raise the money needed to do the land purchase. Right? Strategies for land purchase. What are strategies you know of that you've seen that work? As an example, I've seen a really great model where people do pre-sales. They say, okay, we're going to build these 10 accommodations and we want to do it on this piece of land. If you book your stay ahead of time before we've built, you essentially become an early investor in the project, and you'll have your accommodation available to you once we buy the land and it's built. If we don't raise enough money, we'll give a refund. But in the meantime, yeah. So go ahead and share ideas like this. Okay, I'm setting this timer.
You're on mute, Oscar.
I'm on mute. I'm on mute. Great. Thank you. Okay, cool. So we shared a bunch of good resources. Usually in this call, we got very excited about the LLM showcase and all that. That took up some time. Usually we share links, and then I leave the space open for anyone to, if any of these solutions or links that you shared, you've personally experienced or you're very excited to share about, I would love to hear from you. The transcript is also recording, which is also going to be a data set that goes to the LLM. So if any of you want to share about one or multiple of the cards that you put up here, I'd love to hear from you for any of them so far. So floor is open to Stefan, you'll definitely be sharing Eco Hubs. So I'm excited for that. Does anyone want to open up with maybe one of the cards that you put on the board, or one of these topics that you'd like to bring up, ask a question about, or share something from your experience?
I'm curious about what Rose would like to say. I read that this is something that you research and study deeply. So I'm curious about your thoughts around regen economics and specifically implementation in regenerative neighborhoods, eco-villages, intentional communities. I wish you were here last call because it was more conversational and theoretical, and we were discussing different things, and that was really fun. And today we were like, okay, what are the resources?
Well, now we have the open space, which we're going to now go deep into conversation.
Yeah. So, I mean, just like Eric posted the Capital Institute. I've taken a couple of their courses, and also in Schumacher College in the UK, which was itself on a land trust. It was on a ginormous land trust, which was 100 years old, and they ran out of money. So that was a fascinating experience. But what I posted in the Miro board was the community land trust I was involved with. They just started out as someone living in a suburban neighborhood who, just had kids, and there's an apartment building across the street. And I won't go into the details, but they bought the apartment building. They filled it with, I don't want to say people they knew, but some people they knew. They opened up their backyard, and basically it turned into a neighborhood association. So it was a very organic development. A lot of the eco-villages that I've seen are not like that. There's a group of people, they get together, they brainstorm, they look for land, they have to buy, they have to figure. Whereas this had every kind of way to get in and out on the spectrum. They had short-term, like Airbnb. I was trying to get them to go to Fairbnb, but so they had short-term, they had co-living, co-housing, rentals, or you could just buy a house in the neighborhood. And it was like a neighborhood association. So that's one model, which kind of gets around some of the structural stuff that you have to deal with. I'm not saying it's for everyone. It just happened in one place on the planet that I happen to be involved in. But that's one.
Rose, is this in Portland, Oregon?
No, it's in Ontario, in Guelph.
And I'll find there's a group in Portland who's been very successful at creating for lack of a better word, an intentional community through apartments. I bet it sounds like a little bit larger scale. So I'll find that and post it because
yeah. And the other thing is, if people are interested in, growing food, I mean, the Intentional Community Network, like they have these tours they do, and in Costa Rica, for example, you probably know about them. But there's some of them that are focused on food. Some of them are focused on green building. Other ones are focused on, spiritual development. And then, you have rural and urban. And then, on the urban side, it's the land. I live in downtown in a big city, and there's lots of land trusts here, and it's all about, asset management, property management, and and I could say more, but there's so many options.
Am I on mute? No. Yeah, I agree. There's hey, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Is my microphone working? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. I've seen so many options and so many ideas are like from the most simple, basic, like homeowners association, like a condominium association, where everyone has their own place and they also collectively pay and make decisions around things, all the way down to land trusts and things like this. That I think they each have like their pros for what they're really good for and their cons for what they're not so great at. I'm excited to see how we're going to massage this data to create the best guide and tool that can receive the input from, right? Imagine the 15 of us are starting our own land project, and we each describe the things that are important to us. once we pass it that data, I would love for this tool to say, okay, based on this information you've given me, here are my recommendations. And so far, what I've noticed is it usually does some kind of hybrid. It suggests like five commonly known things, and then it goes, and I would do a hybrid of an HOA and a land trust, or whatever. I made that up, but so I'm excited to see how this flows moving forward. Yeah. Anyone else? Anyone else have some one of the solutions?
I want to throw in on that, Vic here.
Yeah.
I was doing some research on economies. What are they? How many exist? And suddenly, and if you look at the freaking library, there's thousands of books on economy. Most of them are macro economy, so it's coming out of the academia. It's the basically how to manage money, in my opinion, and sell products, which is not economy. And then there's microeconomy, which is the land trusts and the local. And what I'm wondering is, I think it's going to be very important for a micro community, wherever they are on the planet, they're going to have to ask, what is our local economy? That being, how do we manage our place? That's what economy means. Doesn't mean how to manage money. And correlate it with global or macro, the global economy, because we are now a global society, fully on. And so I just want to throw that in, that there's a macro micro dynamic going on here in terms of defining an economy. I don't think it's any more about selecting a trust economy that seems to be working for somebody. I mean, everybody's going to have their own kind of idealized solution for the economy that exists. And Rose, this is sort of going to you. I don't know. Do you have any feedback on that? What I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, you can do both. Like, you definitely need to figure out a business model. Like for instance, social housing is bankrupt, and the only thing that makes it work is if you do mixed income. So that's like a macro, it's like a macro thing, but you need to do the same thing for an eco village. It's like, how's it going to sustain itself? And, if it's just a piece of land, that's one thing. If it's an entity, if you have like a business on it, so you need to figure out, I don't want to say business, but
all these
organizational
criteria,
model.
right? There's all these variables. So there almost has to be a way of profiling the economy that they want.
But there's one thing, there's existence and going forward, but there's also, what is the purpose? And if the purpose, because I know with the land trust, part of the purpose was to decommodify land. And we got into this issue of, oh, well, there's a government program that guarantees loans. And there's I guess, a philosophical issue or a moral issue of, yeah, but that, that's what some people wanted, because that was the cheapest interest mortgage you could get. But that's financialization, and that's what's causing the housing crisis. And we actually found a bank that was founded by a church that wouldn't take it, because it was, we don't do that stuff. We keep, it's like the pacifists. And so there are moral issues there, just like there are moral issues in using AI. It's really like, where do you want to live?
The banking strategies you're talking about, is that Canadian or American or?
I'm in Canada, and we have something called CMHC, but in the US it would be like, Freddie Mae, and like those organizations, which, when they were formed, they were doing good. Like, they were helping people get into homes. It's just that what happened historically after that was, like what we have now. So it's like this fine line, you go a little bit over when you get into securitization, but I'm struggling with that now. Like, in housing issues that come up where people are saying, oh, you need to use CMHC, and it's like, like, it's tough when you research the stuff and the history, and you go, well, that's what caused the problem in the first place, and now I'm going to use it because it's cheap.
Sure. Right. Yeah. History repeats itself if you don't know it. Definitely. Yes. Stefan, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, two things I wanted to share. First, about the current discussion we're having about the economy. I think, or at least in my vision, it would be very good to call a community not only a community but also a business. I think it needs to be a business and trade with the outside world, to be not isolated economically, for one point. And it should also have an internal economy, which could have even a local currency that is traded only locally within that community. And the outside business could serve as an income of fiat or fiat currency, the currency of the country in which the community is in. And there could be one directional payouts from the local currency that is traded locally to the outside currency. So there could be a stash of income that could be capped to a certain percentage and paid out or converted from the local currency to the outside currency. That is one idea I have in mind. I just wanted to share that. And yeah, the other thing is regarding the Miro board. I put there two notes I wanted to just quickly talk about. One of them is Gnosis Safe. So I don't know how many of you know it already, but I will explain a little bit about it. So currently, I think in real life, outside the technical world, it's not so interesting, but currently in the technical area, it's pretty interesting. So the thing is, currently, or before that existed, everyone had their own wallet, so digital wallet where they could trade cryptocurrency. And this application allows a common treasury. So it's another wallet that you can create, and you can add owners to that wallet. And that can be that can serve as a common treasury for a community, for example, for an online community in that case. And I'm using this also for EcoHubs, for our internal community or online community, for making decisions. So you can connect that treasury, that wallet, to another service that is called Snapshot. Snapshot is for making for voting. And I can say in Snapshot, okay, every owner of that wallet can vote, and you can take it that far that you can, even today, you could use it to allocate taxes to certain projects. So you could vote in Snapshot, for example, for which of these 5 projects we want to allocate money to. Cool. And you can vote on that, and then once the voting is completed, automatically the funds or the treasury amount that was discussed beforehand would go and allocate itself to these projects. So that's pretty interesting, I think, and could be used in a real world scenario later on as well, I think. And the other thing was exactly, I mentioned it already, like a taxing system could be rethought. I know everyone is probably feels a little bit of goosebumps when it gets to taxing, but if you rethink taxing, it could be something very beautiful, because you could, everyone could spend some money monthly, for example, or yearly into a common treasury, and you could basically use that money for developing the land or developing systems that are there in the community, and that makes it into something beautiful if you can vote for it and allocate your money. And
sure.
Yeah, was it what I said before? You could use a common treasury wallet for that, for example. Yeah.
Stefan, are you open now to give us a little tour of EcoHubs, like the back end, how you can use some of these tools? I met Stefan very recently through, I think, Instagram. And we realized that we're both holding interesting pieces of like the same journey, of like gathering community members, sharing these ideas, and then having specific tools that facilitate the individuals to interact and collaborate efficiently. I think, Dan, this is along the lines of the conversation of this hub that allows all of us to collaborate more effectively. So I think this is going to be a little drop-in we're all going to have very soon. But yeah, go ahead, Stefan. I'd love everyone to understand more about eco hubs and what you're building.
Stefan, I'd like to see that, but things that you just said kind of may trigger how you present it. And that is, what do you think of, maybe Rose, what do you guys think of actually creating a focus of generating a global secondary economy? So we get specific. We're not about the old economy. We're not interested in trying to kill it or change it. We will have bridges to the first economy, but I think we need to be specific about this network that we're generating of micro communities, and we're all struggling with the money system and all that. We're going to come up with our own design, and we don't want it being suppressed by the first economy. We just want a bridge to it. So what would a secondary economy look like with some of the modeling that you're doing? I just add that. Thanks.
What would a secondary economy look like?
Do you mean a secondary economy or a secondary currency?
The secondary economy, in other words, what is going to emerge out of, I've been doing this micro community shit for a long time. There are thousands and thousands of them all over the world. If they aligned into a network, which I think should be Masilic based and fractal, but that's another conversation. We're generating a whole nother way of life, a way of living. We're not fighting the older existing system. We're saying there's new ways, although it's sort of the Bucky concept. Go build something better that works. Quit trying to change the old one. We create a secondary, by definition in the language, a secondary economy that these micro communities all network in. So there's a priority. If I have a good, I sell it within the secondary economy of micro communities first. But there is also an alternative to bridge over to the first economy. So this is sort of a framework I'm saying that within this, it's going to be a hybrid of economies. I guarantee you that after 200 that I just looked at. So what are your thoughts?
That's sort of what the solidarity economy is, and even cooperatives in and of themselves. Like there are principles where they take a certain amount of resources to education and enabling more co-ops, growing the co-ops.
Right,
so that's the
right.
same principle, right?
It is. Well, it's somewhat, I just wrote a book on how to eliminate taxes. So we don't need taxes. Personal taxation is ridiculous. It's an old paradigm, and we're still using it because we think we got to get money from somewhere. But if we have a sovereign wealth model, the money goes into these pools that Stefan mentioned, and it's not a tax pool. It's a forgive to the community, and it's not a donation either. It's a balanced system, and we use AI to manage it. Not humans. My God, it'll go downhill if we let the humans. Anyway, joking. No, silence. Nobody believes that it's possible to create an environment without personal taxes.
I feel like you're describing the same thing, but you're just using a different word, like forgiving. What was the word you just said?
Yeah, forgive. It's a deep one.
It wasn't forgiving. It was like instead of using the word taxing, like we're all investing into the place that we live, and we know like
that's right.
Right. I think
that's
just
not taxes. That's not taxes. So there's a way to do it, and we would design it with a taxless model.
I was thinking in the sense of like
tax.
the habitat, the economy, the habitat that we live within. If you're they have the term arcology, which is a city in one building, and then they have biotexture or biomimicry, like designing parallel to nature or using the examples of nature. So if you have a circular economy and a parallel economy, I would imagine the habitat itself, what we input and output, feeds into that living system, if you will, that cell. So that's kind of what I'm like thinking in direction wise. Like I'm not sure. Like anyone have any questions on what I stated there?
Say it again in like, say it one more time.
So the actual living systems that we operate in, like the commune itself,
Sure.
if you want to use that term, or the eco village, or the co-op, or whatever have you, everything that we put in, if we separate ourselves from the monetary system, the fiat, when we look exactly at resources and the inputs and outputs, really our thinking should be, how do we, I don't want to use the word closed loop system, but how do we take the inputs and integrate them into the actual living structure? You know, how do we treat
Okay, I
our
got it. Yeah.
our infrastructure like our own bodies?
Yeah, yeah.
And
I think there's a cool model in like some I don't know who did it, but like for example, the river became a stakeholder in the company's profit like log. So so I think this would be a way where like maybe it's not taxing, it's just we understand that all of the trees that we're living around provide us oxygen that allow us to do our work. So some percentage of our money should be going to the trees. Some percentage of our money should be going to the table that we're sitting at, because this table inevitably will need some repairs at some point, and that becomes a fund for the tables that we're using and the buildings that we live in, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe that
yeah,
could be,
taxation has
like
this in the
stakeholder.
current economy. It's like taxation is beholden to capture by extracurricular forces. So if your taxation really, in a new term, would be to, well, I mean, we always want to decrease taxation, right? Some economies want to increase taxation as high as possible for more capture of that current. But to look at, how do we reduce the taxation on our waterways? How do we reduce the taxation on our forests?
We
How
quit
do we
thinking about taxes. Taxes is a mistake to be thinking about that. Hey,
yeah, yeah.
Stefan, I stole your thunder. I wanted to be sure Stefan gets his chance.
No, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
just, I'm like thinking of like to change the semantic understand, like the ontology of what we understand these words to be in the relation to living within our carrying capacity, like being a part of our carrying capacity, like being a part of your environment. So that changes the whole discussion of economy.
Yeah,
It's not a
in sustainability, it's called total cost accounting. So you include
okay.
all of those in. But
Yeah.
again, Stefan, I apologize. I started a whole nother conversation.
All good, all good.
Yeah, so as we're discussing all of these topics of economy and value exchange, I think a few calls back we got to the understanding, as we were discussing, like a resource-based economy and not even needing things like money to transact. And money is just a tool that makes it easier to transact and exchange things. Exploring these topics, the economic topic as probably the most foreign one to me of all of the topics, of like hardware, human systems, ecology, technology. Economy is this like, social construct that we've developed to facilitate interaction between individuals. And it's in, at least in America, this social construct has become the new god, right? Money is what everyone reveres, is what everyone hopes for, it's what everyone lives and dies for in some ways, and takes lives for in war and things. So I'm, I'm very curious to like, maybe I'd like to hear from each person, like, when you hear the word economy, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Like money, for me, comes to mind. Maybe like, what is that journey through, like, taking into account that, like you said, Eric, we have our community, our physical location. What are the critical things that we need to account for in, right, with this mindset of we're building a framework? Maybe like I imagine it as a checklist. So for us to feel confident that our checklist for our economy category is like taken care of, what would be the things in that checklist? That we have a way to bring value into the community from the outside. is one. That we have a way to create valuable things within the community and exchange them with each other in the community. That's another one of these like checklist items that we need a system for, that we need to explicitly define how these things will work with each other and with outsiders. This is like where my mind goes in this topic. I'm curious, like, for you guys, where would that go, right? You're designing your community and you're like, okay, economy, I got to figure out the economy piece. These are important things for that checklist to be done and made sure I scratch them off the list. Maybe an abstract question there. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, to me come also that the idea that the individual communities, they maybe have a very individual way of what they would value even as a system of economy, or even maybe some would value the ability to 100% grow their own food and water and be almost fully exit from the system. Some others would value more 50-50 or whatever. So right. The whatever a local community values is so different to every other community. But the interesting is that to think about that, right? To how would I be wanting to interface with money, with value? Is it cryptocurrency, real money? And then there are so many different ways I think. But when speaking about a blueprint, I think it's interesting to raise what needs to be decided, as Stefan also probably would mention in his presentation, like what's behind that, the core of, yeah. And then later on, everybody can implement their own version of it. And maybe the framework could recommend things that we figure out to be really nicely sustainable or something like that.
I'm reading in the chat some of Vitali's messages, and Vitali, I'm like pretty aligned with this as well. You know, he's like saying things like, let's use an agentic economy where humans thinking about or dealing with money is totally criminalized and that process is automated. I think you said a similar thing, Vic, that if humans put their hands on it, it's not going to work out. It just so happens, from my observation, that money has become a way to hoard power. And so it's not what the money can buy you, food, water, shelter. That's not even a question anymore. There's so much money, you could buy that for lifetimes. It becomes a measure of power. And power, I'm 38 now, and I understand power to be one of the most addictive drugs that are out there. So I'm very curious to watch this video. Yeah, go ahead.
The misnomer of Social Security provided by money, like you save for your generations ahead. I mean, that's usually like, oh, we must save the family farm for our children. But like at the same time, you cannot determine what the desires or needs will be. Like Jack Fresco says, the cities that we design will become straitjackets for the children of the future. So, that's not a really strong selling point now, but but it is a realistic like understanding. It's like I was thinking like I can't concern myself with 7 generations down the road. I have to know exactly what the next generation is doing. Like what are they on? What do they need? If I can just focus on that simplicity, like I can't have a guarantee that the styles or the developments that I produce in my life will have a lasting effect. In fact, they might become detrimental. So to take that realization, it's like I don't want to like deflate anyone's bubble, but I mean at the same time I don't want the bubble to burst. So it's like trying to find that where's the gravity at the time? Like, what is required? So obviously what we are facing right now is all sorts of calamity. And I mean really it just seems like if no one believed the money had value, well, it wouldn't have any value. So there wouldn't be any power associated to it. So it's like power is related in community, and more so in the relationships that define a functional community, a community that can live beyond your own life. So I think a lot of people, and I was getting into the concept because I hear all these I've been studying a lot of this conspiracy culture, and I'm starting to think of this concept of emergent culture as always the first one to be refused. So the first culture to be outcast or displaced in whatever form is the one that emerges for progressive motion. So evolution, like progressivism, is slow by nature because it doesn't want to cause harm. So like harm is being caused already, and it is exponential in its own right. So it's like when you're working in an emergent field, it almost feels like you're doing nothing all the time, but it's kind of a Zen thing. So it's like, to me, it breaks into like a philosophical thing, which is like kind of difficult, because it's like you want practical effects, but then at the same time, I mean, if you want, most practical thing is like go out and do a soup kitchen, go out and grow a garden, go and take the resource there and craft something. So, um, but here we're taking all of our psychic energy, our conscious energy, and we're trying to apply it, and we're doing like that a digital what do you call it, a temporary autonomous zone, but digitally. So we're finding that spiritual community before actually, like, because I mean we're not as a global society, as all natives of a planet. It's just there's like a different mindset, and that's going to be hard to applicate and get rid of like ancient tradition. It's like, I don't want to get too political here, but in the concept of like, I hear a lot of people like, oh, we're against this religious political theory, or we're against imperialism, but save our imperium, like save the imperium by destroying imperium being imperial. So it's like, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm getting too far out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I missed two steps on how you got here from like original money. If we don't value money, then it doesn't have any value. I think my mind kind of sidetracked a little bit on a topic I want to ask, but
Well, in the sense of power, like if money holds no power, then what holds power? It's the agreement of exchange. It's the consent of exchange. It's the consent of community coming together. That's what holds power.
Yeah, and it's more than that. Money allows the diversity of exchange rather than the old systems without money. So I don't have to have donuts because it's all they change with, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to eliminate usury. That means zero interest. You do not get to make money on money. That's actually a religious thing in most Bibles and tribes.
But like,
yeah,
is that appropriate for an information economy though? Like zero,
Absolutely it is. I mean, you can
but
still
like
have
interest.
prosper transfers of money a little bit, but
Would
there's
you
no
say that?
interest. You eliminate interest.
But maybe I'm getting these words confused. Okay, so what would be the difference between interest and intention in an information economy? So you have attention and you have interest. Those are like two same words in the basically the same words in the English language. I mean, there's difference, but interest can be applied in different ways than just attention.
No, one is the human value, the other's what you make on money. Interest rate is you make money on money,
But
and that
like
has
like
to go away.
but I mean, like in an information economy, like interest is like what one pays attention to. So
Yeah,
like,
and there's value in that, and you can get paid for that. That's not interest.
yeah. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm also like, I understand the perception of usury,
I
but
think it's the same word, but it means different things in those two different contexts.
yeah. So that's why I'm saying it's like as we transfer from one understanding of economy to the other, these words still exist, but their meaning changes.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure,
Yeah,
but
I can't wait till the Star Trek era. I'm all for no money. But we're way from that in terms of the human condition and the way of thinking. It ain't going to go away unless you want to try to fight that. Good luck with that. So
or
we're going to have a money system until we get Star Trekky. We got a ways to go.
well, a lot of people are also highly invested in keeping that, like, really a money system is based on the sovereignty of a nation or an empire. Like, that's the only thing. Like, only nations or empires. Like,
Well, you know what, Eric? Why don't we let other people in on this? Because We're
I,
telling.
Yeah, I'm
I would like to
sorry.
hear what Rose thinks because she's
Yeah.
has some.
Right, Rose? You look like you're deeply in thought there.
You know, there's such a spectrum between, the money system, the international monetary system, and the pragmatics of an eco-village. And I think you need to decide. I mean, they're all valid. It's just where do you want to focus? Like, and I'm like first time here. Um, I don't know what to say. It really, like, I'm not. I don't want to.
No pressure.
I think, what was the time? Were we supposed to go to 4:30 or something?
Well, so the call is 3 to 4:30, which we're past the 4:30 part, which is
Yeah.
like the structured part where we use the Miro board and we go topic by topic and ask questions about a specific thing and grab resources. After 4:30, for the next hour, we're in this kind of what's supposed to be an open space, which is we're all in this group. We're all kind of just like chatting about economy as the macro topic. And if something has very specific interest in it, attention to it, that person leading that conversation is welcome to, I'll start a breakout group. Like, let's say you want to talk about the economy of bananas. Okay, great. 3 of us are very interested in the economy of bananas. We would start a breakout group, go into that, dive in as deep as we can while the rest of the group keeps holding this like general conversation space. And then you guys would come back, reassimilate, and share with us your like takeaways from the economy of bananas as an example, and so before we continue with this, I would love Stefan to share the EcoHub tool set, because I think it's one of these really critical, like, right, removing money from the equation. If we discuss like value exchange, setting goals, and different people taking initiative to work on things and then being rewarded in some way, maybe it's with money, maybe it's with access to the thing that was created, whatever it is, requires a mechanism. And that mechanism, the one I'm fond of, is definitely a more decentralized one, a DAO structure. And this is what Stefan has been working on in like an edge case scenario. Tell us about it, Stefan. Please share your screen. You can share screen if you'd like. I'd love everyone to see this, because I'd love everyone to jump in there and answer the questions and start, because I think we're going to integrate this into our process. So go ahead and share it, Stefan.
Awesome. Should I maybe say a few words first about EcoHubs in general?
Yeah, please. Yeah,
about
EcoHubs, give the background. Yeah, please.
Perfect. So yeah, I started this project. It's very young, just a few months ago, around December. And it came from that vision that I share with all of you guys, I think, of building decentralized regenerative communities. And I thought it would be very good to have like a common ground or some helping tools, because I was reading that the failure rate of these types of communities is around 80 to 90%, which is incredible. And so I was researching a little bit about why are they failing? So what are they missing? And most sources, and also my experience in discussion with the local community here in Ecuador, was that it's the social aspect. So there's a lot of implicit decisions at some point. Even things like vision, very important things, are sometimes not explicitly written down. Also, how membership is treated, who is a member, what other roles are there in a group. So all of these questions I found, and I thought it would be a really good thing for these communities to have a framework where they could look at and see, what do I have to define? What do I have to make explicit in order to survive? Sorry, I have some mosquitoes here around me. I'm not hunting ghosts. And yeah, so this was the core point, the core question of why I started with this, and I had a vision in mind also a lot more, like all these micro categories that we were talking about. This as a blueprint is, I think, a very powerful tool or it can become a very powerful tool for communities. And I would like to see more popping off the ground in the future, and I would like to see them thriving. And I think if there are only a few really working good examples with good economy, good social structure, good governance, I think it will be almost like a magnet and would call people to do the same, because it promises a better life with more meaningful work, I would say. That's what I imagine. More meaningful life, better economy, better education, less dependency on a system. I think that's a very important point also regarding the economy topic we're talking about. We haven't talked about dependency, and I think it's a very important point, because if you imagine a family in a city at the moment, they're very, very dependent on money. That's why they're in these jobs that they maybe not even might feel as fulfilling. So I think it's very important to be, as a community, also resilient in a way of being less dependent on that outside system. So less dependency creates more resilience. That's what I believe, and I think that's what makes it so beautiful as well. So, but to get to the social point again, so the framework that I created is called RCOS. It stands for Regenerative Community Operating System. It's not a software, not yet at least. Maybe in the future, I hope so. Currently, you can find it. I will post it in the chat. You will find it on the website. It's hosted there. It's written text. So yeah, I will post it in a second. I called it Blueprint and RCOS at the same time. Blueprint.ecohubs community. So, and this framework is categorized in 7 layers. And these 7 layers are identified as very important layers of community life. I can share also now my screen, so I go a little bit into this before I go into the technical side of things. So I will share my screen. Oh, I have a lot of mosquitoes here now. So share the entire screen. I need to allow Zoom to share my screen. 1 second, please. Thank you for your patience. So I hope it works now. It looks like. Okay, now you might see my screen. Yes. Okay.
Yep.
So here
Yep.
you can see the layers that I was talking about that RCOS defines. So we have in the middle, in the center, as the most important layer of all, the 0 layer, which is identity and scope. So what is our community? What is the land that we're talking about? What are the assets we're holding? And also, what is our identity? What is our vision? What is our secondary vision? What are our missions and goals as a community in general? The second layer is the membership system. So who is a member? Who goes? How can you introduce new members? How is the exit defined of members? That's also a very important point that many social systems miss, or many communities miss. Also, which roles do I have inside of the communities? What obligations do they have? What can they do? What can they not do? So basically, so the next layer is the governance and decision-making layer. So it basically forces the community to think about this and say, okay, we have this type of governance and decision-making logic. So it doesn't matter for RCOS what you're choosing. I'm not defining any of this. I'm not saying you need to use sociocracy or anything like this. It's just it just defines that you should define it as a community. This is a very important point about RCOS. So it's very non-ideologic, and it doesn't force you to do anything except think about it and define it, make it explicit. So the next thing is the economic layer and resource system. So I'm also here, I'm not saying you need to do it this or that way. I'm just saying you need to define it. And I wrote down all of these questions or topics that need to be defined. And I'm also working currently on creating templates for all of this. So basically, you can download something like a Word file, I imagine at the moment, as a first step that you fill out as a community that has all these things. then yeah, it goes on with the community, the conflict and repair, and accountability layer, operations and coordination layer, and eventually the evolution and adaptation layer, because the system you're defining needs to evolve over time. It cannot be a rigid thing. You're probably learning. You are changing. Every person in the community is changing, so it needs to be very adaptable to what you need. Yeah. By the way, on Thursday next week, there will be a full presentation about RCOS, more in detail. This is one slide of it. Yeah, I'm more than happy to invite you to it, to participate and learn more about it. But yeah, let's go to the more technical part of it. So what I created as a first step for building this online community called EcoHubs was creating a space where we can collaborate. And what I found very important for collaboration was that it's a horizontal system. So I wanted to transport the vision that I have for communities out there, for regenerative communities, also into that system, which means it's very horizontal. There's no leader on the top that has power of everything. I mean, technically it is currently, but I'm trying to get as close as possible to non-leadership models. So, which means voting is a very big point. So once you become a member of EcoHubs, you can sign up, by the way, on the website. I open it quickly as well. EcoHubs community/join. Here you can fill out a form, which should serve as a filter for people that, that don't want to be part of it. So these questions should already, make people think if they even want to join on this mission. And I think all of you will fill this out and will feel aligned to it. So no problem there. But once you're a member, or once you applied, there is a membership application system. So you will pop up here in this list, and you can create proposals. So I can read the full application of a person. I don't want to share too many personal information now. I obfuscated the email address, but you can see the full application of everyone that applies, and I can create a proposal on Snapshot. Snapshot is software that is outside. I didn't create it. I'm using it, and I deeply integrated it into the system. And you can call it here in voting. So this is just a link. You can open it, and you can see on Snapshot all the things that are open for voting. So that can be membership applications, but it can be all sorts of decisions we can make internally. That can be votings about blog articles. So if someone or everyone is allowed to write blog articles, but before they go live, they need to go through this. So we would create a proposal. People have a certain amount of time to vote on it. And when it's approved, it becomes a button appears where you can publish the blog post, for example. Yeah. And the same way it works with memberships. So everyone that applies appears there. You can vote. That works, as I said before, with the Gnosis Safe wallet. So that's why you need to have a wallet. It's very quick and simple, and it doesn't cost anything. It will ask you for it in the onboarding process.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, here is also a link to a forum.
Having the wallet is like your KYC in a way.
My what?
Having the wallet is like
I don't know this word.
Is like the know your customer, like that validates that we're a real person and we can interface.
Yes, the wallet is very important for participating in the voting process.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yes. Without that, you cannot, because I need a way in Snapshot. Snapshot is built on this, so it's not me that wants this, but Snapshot says you need to be a owner or participant of this wallet, this shared wallet. Otherwise, you're not allowed to. So it works like right on the edge to blockchain things. So if it says anything to anyone. So yeah, exactly. So we have a forum where we can have discussions of all sorts. I see it as a second stage of making decisions. So first we chat in Telegram or in Discord. We also have a Discord channel. And the second stage would be a forum where we can discuss it more in detail. And then as a last step, it would be the voting system. So we can create a proposal, everyone can vote, and then it goes into production or not, whatever.
Cool.
And as the last thing would be PackStack. That's a tool that I created because it was missing. It doesn't exist yet out there, so I created it. It's a task management system that contains many different features to collaborate in a group. So the first thing is I can open it quickly. I can show you a little bit. There are not so many tasks. Currently, there's only this one because it's all pretty fresh. So, but this is a bounty board, which is the first thing that I was missing in traditional task management systems. It shows the board, the tasks ordered by priority. So you see here on the left, there's priority is currently 10. So if there are other ones, they can have lower or higher priority. And you can vote up or down the priority if you have a certain permission to do so. It also has a gamification aspect to it. So if I go in here, this is a quest. Here you can see it, it's yellow. It's a quest chain which contains multiple tasks. So in this case, we have 2 tasks. This quest is about acoustics. Acoustics, sorry, to research it because someone mentioned it in the group. I didn't know what it was, and maybe it's a very interesting topic to explore, to research. So this task is open for everyone that joins and can take it, and will get 160 eco tokens and 240 experience points. And what are they for? So with tokens, you can buy permissions, so you can do more things in this task management, and experience will higher your level, and will also at the same time allow you to work on tasks that have a requirement of a level. So maybe you have a very important task and you create a task and you say this requires at least level 4. Yeah, I want someone to work on this that has experience in our space. So you need to work and participate in order to get more permissions and to do higher or more important tasks, basically. Yeah. So this is the way how I thought it was that it is a good way of collaborating with tasks in a group of people without having a boss on top or a leader that assigns tasks to people and controls them. By the way, one more thing about tasks: you cannot just simply fulfill the task by yourself. You need to submit a proof of work. There can be a link, it can be a text, and then you have approvers. Every task has approvers, so it's also the group. Everyone can approve or disapprove, and decides over if the task is done or not. Okay, yeah, I think that summarizes it. I went pretty much in detail, but yeah, if you have any questions, please ask.
Yeah, I'm super engaged by this tool you built, as we're wanting to formalize the way that as this group is growing, more participants are joining the calls, the excitement with the technology is there. And there's a lot to do, specifically around designing this framework, building these tools, touching on general RCOS, the first piece that you shared. It's very much in alignment with the way that we organized and the way that the framework is shaping up. I'll share that document with you so you can see it. I don't know if everyone has access to that. You can see all the Google Drive with all of the LLM process data on the website. I'll share a link here. Can you share a link to the page, to the RNF page?
Hey, Oscar, Ian's got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, I've got heaps of questions. It's really, really
Yeah,
cool,
go ahead,
Stefan.
go ahead.
It's really cool. Is it on Ethereum blockchain? Is it testnet, mainnet, like the main chain, or?
So Snapshot forced me to choose a chain, a blockchain, and I chose Ethereum. But you don't need to hold any Ethereum at the moment. I decided to build it basically on the edge of blockchain, so we don't have to pay any gas fees. I thought that was a blocker for a young community, so I decided to build it with the same values that I would build it on a blockchain, but without the gas fees. So it's still centralized. It still comes with all the disadvantages of decentralization. So theoretically, I'm able to go into the database and change values, which would not be possible in blockchain systems. But I would be open in the future to go on blockchain, of course. And yeah, so much to that.
Cool.
How do you
I
pay
was
for it
curious
without
about.
gas fees?
Sorry, one at a time. I didn't hear.
How do you pay for it without gas fees?
It's because currently it's not on blockchain. It's on a central server hosted.
But you have to pay for that. How do you pay for that?
I pay currently myself from my private finances this server. Yeah.
Could you elaborate, Stefan, on ECO, the ECO token? Like, is it related to a funding pool backed by an asset, or is it like, where does ECO come from, and how do you earn it for proposals and things to vote?
Yeah, so the name I chose because of Eco Hubs. That's why it's an Eco token. And it's currently just a value in a database, in a normal centralized database. It has currently no value in any cryptocurrency market. It's not tradable, nothing like that. But as I said, I'm super keen in the future to go on blockchain and to make it maybe a tradable token. It would be interesting to act like an actual DAO. So how these organizations currently work, no, with local currencies. So we could basically live online already as a community. How an economy in a regenerative community would actually be trading, no, and how they would use this cryptocurrency. That would be interesting. But as I said, I didn't want to go there at the moment because of the gas fees. I think that's a point where many people would say, like, no, I'm not going to vote now because it will cost me, I don't know, 50 cents or $3. Yeah, the gas fees are sometimes lower, sometimes higher. So that's why I say no for the moment.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I agree. I think sometimes DAO tech tries to go Web3 native and introduces all this friction that makes it hard to prototype and experiment with. So yeah, that's really cool. Just one more question. The last one was, is it like an open source set of tools that anyone would adopt? So like Regen Tribe would adopt the tools, and then they'd have their instance of RCOS, or like another community would have their instance of RCOS, or is it trying to be one DAO for all the communities?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, but I think we need to separate two things. Like, one is RCOS, which is the framework for regenerative communities on what they have to define. And the other one is like how we internally as a online community collaborate. This was the technical part that I showed at the end. We could merge them into something, or not merge them actually, but we could create actually a portal for regenerative communities where they sign up, where they give us information about their community, about the environment, group size, all of these things. And there could be a layer where they can define things that RCOS defines. So what is your vision? As the most basic one. So they would write in their vision that could be connected to an AI and could, there's a lot of things you could do with this. You could run stress tests, for example, with AI. You could say, we have in our community a spiritual leader or someone that accumulated a lot of power. How did we define, or where is defined that that this cannot happen. So, or how can we proceed on solving this based on what we defined in our social structure? That would be very interesting. And then from then on, there's endless possibilities for modules as well that we were talking about, the blueprint micro categories, we call them, right? So there, the community could basically do play with Lego blocks and build their structures together with these modules. They could say, we want this economy with cryptocurrency or not, using a completely different approach. Or we want this sort of governance decision-making process internally. So they could choose, take these building blocks together and build something out of it.
Right. So like I see like such a strong alignment, and like that piece right there is what we're currently focused on, Ian. I see with the framework, resource gathering, and like outlining how, like, right, we're not telling you how to do it, we're just saying these are the questions you have to ask, and you have to explicitly define how this will happen with your community. Otherwise you're probably going to fail. Something's going to come up and it's going to cause endemic disaster for your group. So this is something where I'm excited to explore more and see how we can overlap and maybe like create something together on that. Another piece is our journey right now, Ian, even us on our call, we were like, oh, we need to check in with the community and ask them what they think and how that goes. And like, I would love to start maybe stress testing your proposal mechanism, Stefan. Like coming in, I don't know if we create our own little bubble or we just like use the Eco Hub's like dashboard as like,
use it.
If we're the critical mass of users, we just start proposing stuff and and we come in and start using the tools. That would be great, and that helps define it. And Dan, what we were talking about in our first breakout group, this starts becoming this like hub of, right, that there's like layers. There's like the global network, which is all of us in different countries working on our own projects and interested in helping this global movement expand. Then there's smaller bubbles within that macro bubble, right? The smaller bubble of us designing the framework, right? Eco hubs and what we're doing, very similar. Maybe it'll merge into one. Then there's other bubbles of like Ian, you creating your community in the Cook Islands, and Dr. Brian and what he's doing in Australia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah,
I had a
that's
question.
that's the micro community mycelic network, global network, and it has to be fractally based. But the one thing that is missing is, Stefan, what you said is the guy that you don't want his model or his energy in your community. That's a humanizing issue. So Ian, back to the profiler, I'm telling you, if we can integrate that with what Stefan is creating, oh my God, suddenly people can start seeing clustered, not just what they want, but the styles of perception of personalities that they do or do not want to incorporate. Because in the end, it's the human that makes it or breaks it, not the structure. But we have to have those structures.
Could that be implicated when you complete quests? Like when you upload, like, oh, I completed the quest, and you like put in your proof of stake or whatever, or your picture or video or whatever showing the quest has been completed by such and such group, then the quality of that, like, I don't know, it's like if you complete a quest, it's like an open-ended game where it's like you do a quest and you can either get like negative or positive karma points. It doesn't necessarily mean like maybe a negative or bad connotation, because it's like if you have a negative karma point, it might be better for that community. Or if you have a positive karma point, it might be better for that community.
Well, it has to
So,
be relative to their community. We can't start labeling
right.
people with karma points, right?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe like your karma is defined by this like ontology of like I don't know. Maybe I'm going a little too deep in there and like trying. Well, I'm trying to bridge a gap between two systems there, for liberty's sake. But maybe that's, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, so first of all, you cannot get minus points. That doesn't work. So you can only gain more. And the more you participate, the more you get, but you never get minus. So you can use your coins to buy permissions to do certain things. So in that way, you can get less points, but you will never lose in another way. If you don't solve something, that's okay. Then the next
I'm just
person
thinking
will
of
work on it.
like, I'm just like thinking of like quality of work. I don't know. Maybe I'm using an older model of thought, but like to make sure you get positioned in communities that are more aligned with your aesthetic or background, or like for communities that push. I don't know. I was just thinking of the sense of like,
Yeah, that would be a signature, and that would evolve based on the integration of profiles of individuals become what a community is like. And that signature is a resonance that they
you know what I'm
become,
saying. You know what
right?
I'm saying? Yeah, yeah. That's
Well,
really the direction I'm aiming
yeah.
for.
Yeah, what I tried to build with this was the concept of meritocracy. So you get permissions by contribution, not by wealth or by status or by other things that is currently possible in our current society. So I wanted to find a way how to contribute and gain more permissions, more access to things by actually contributing.
Yes,
So this
your
was the
level of
idea, just to
activity
explain
and
that.
participation. That
Exactly.
what you're saying? Yeah.
It's just a weird, like I had a weird conversation about like one person's up and up could be another person's rock bottom. And it's like all this concern, it's very hard to walk both those lines at the same time where you are recognizing the worst and the best of yourself at the same time. That's not necessarily something that people are like even comfortable with doing. Like either it's like that seems pretty alien or neutral. Um, I don't know what I'm even referencing
Eric,
there.
our philosopher, yes, I will call to you on that because it will be important.
Yeah, you know what okay, you got what I'm saying, my man. All right, cool. Cool. Okay. Okay, yeah.
Stefan, there's just still the one thing I'm not super clear on is that, so let's say, for example, I have a community, Vic has another community, then there's the Regen community. Are we all putting proposals on top of each other or in the same instance of EcoHubs? Or would I have my own instance of EcoHubs doing proposals? Vic's got his own instance doing proposals. Yeah, I wasn't too clear on that.
Yeah, I understand. That's a good question. So currently, I would say we're all working on the same thing. So it's okay if we're all in the same space. And I haven't built it in that way that it's easy to duplicate. It's not possible, obviously. I could create different instances, but I think we're all working on the same cause. We can all have access to the same tasks. And why would not someone from EcoHubs or from another community work on tasks that you defined if they align? So I think we can all use the same space. You can all be EcoHubs members. We can all be Regen tribe members. It doesn't really matter at the end, I guess, because we all have the same vision, and it's just a different mask for the same thing. No? That's how I see it, at least.
Right, where I'm seeing the ultimate
the...
alignment. Yeah, I'm seeing the ultimate alignment here in that both EcoHubs, Regen Tribe, and also Masterminding Eden, which is like the other partner that started this call series with, right? We're calling this the Regenerative Federation, right? We're all organizations working to a similar goal. And the similar goal is to design this framework, these modules that you're talking about. Our modules are broken into these 5 macro categories and then subcategories, right? To create the macro framework, it's essentially a compilation of many small frameworks. Like, here's your economic framework, here's your human system framework, here's your hardware framework. And so potentially each one of those can be a bounty with sub bounties inside of them. And what we can do is use EcoHubs as our like project management, bounty, and forum for keeping track of the framework specifically. That could be really cool. And so now we have a place where we're all seeing each other, interfacing with ideas specific to the framework creation. I don't know how that feels for everyone. We can discuss it. We can propose it on EcoHubs and see what everyone says. You know, Dan, I'd love
kind of
like
feels
your thought. I know you just stepped away for a second, but if you're around, I'd love to hear from you, Rafa, and like any feedback on this call. I haven't heard anything from your side yet, and I'd love to. But yeah, Dan, I'd love to hear your thought on this becoming like the first baby step for our, like dashboard hub for this movement, for these tools.
Sorry, I'll just jump in quickly. So, Stefan, would you see EcoHubs as more the DAO for the broader movement of regenerative movement rather than tools for a local physical community? Because it kind of wouldn't be relevant if I was putting forward a proposal for my community. It's like, okay, I propose we use our $100 in our pool to make a composting toilet. Is not going to be super relevant. Right. So it's more, EcoHubs is more for the bigger movement at large.
Right. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. I don't see EcoHubs as the provider of infrastructure. I see it as a parallel community that has the same goals as Regen Tribe and probably many other communities around here. That's how I see it. And we work on different things. We have different focuses, which makes it very beautiful as well, because we can merge these things together and it becomes a big, beautiful thing. That's how I see it.
Yeah, Rafa, I'd love to hear from you if you're up for sharing something.
Absolutely. I mean, I could keep going listening to you guys for a very long time. I am very much in the transition period, rooted in the transition from the old paradigm into the new paradigm. And I'm just lapping up what everyone's saying because coming into this call, I'm very keenly aware that I don't know what I don't know. I have an extensive background in global shipping and commodities trading, specifically recyclable commodities. So on the economic front, I engage, dozens of countries every day, and move millions of tons of cargo every year. And I know that there is such a demand, such a thirst, such a hunger for exactly what all of you stand for. So, kudos to all of you for committing yourself to this, for starters. As I'm listening to all this, I'm just taking vast notes about things that I need to research. I was talking to Ian in the breakout session. My wife and I are close personal friends with James Hodges, whom we were just with in Costa Rica last week, actually. We just got back last night, as a matter of fact. And we're actively working with him to figure out what our role is going to be in frequency to help usher in a lot of these programs, new ideas, and so on and so forth. So I'm here learning, and my background, I think I'll find ways for it to apply, but everything from economics to supply and demand to human psyche and just the human condition is something I'm well versed in. And I would definitely welcome one-on-one conversations with any and all of you.
Anytime, Rafa, let's do it. Vic.
Oh, I got you down, Vic, for sure.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Rafa. Welcome to the group. Welcome to the calls. I'm happy James made some suggestions in the chat that you guys should join. James he started a fund a couple of years ago to raise money to deploy for regenerative initiatives, regenerative land projects specifically. He's on the economic front deeply. Going through the Bitcoin up and downs, but keeping it going, sharing a good newsletter, and keeping everyone aligned. Yeah, it's good. Okay, you guys. So it's 5:30 now. We've been on the call for 2.5 hours. I could talk about this stuff forever, and I want to honor everyone's time. This is like technically the hard stop time of the open space and the chats. The chat is going to stay open. I'm happy to keep picking brains. I think my biggest piece right now is, I know there's like, I'm staring at amazing people, and there's so many with these ideas to change things and design things and build physical places that represent all of these theoretical concepts and practices. One of the things that this space, like I got into this space from a systems perspective of, okay, how does the eco-village trend actually take off? Because I see it being one of the most powerful solutions for all of the stuff happening in the world. And the first step was obviously doing research, understanding what's out there. And the first blockage I found was fragmentation. There's WhatsApp groups everywhere, Facebook groups, websites, all of it, all over the place. Web apps and platforms, there's so much stuff, and it's all good stuff, but none of it ever reaches critical mass. Because everyone's designing their own thing and their idea is the best, and it is great. Your idea is great. All of these ideas are great especially if they hit their critical mass numbers. So I'm ideating and putting this out to you guys, like, what is the best way for us to interact? Like, so far, these calls have been the starting point for us to get together, put these ideas down on something. I know from experience that working on a specific project that has a defined deliverable is a great way to build momentum and keep that going. Our claim to that right now is this framework tool that now, meeting you, Stefan, we are aligned, wanting to build this framework, right? Your modules, our topics, how does that interrelate? And you have a tool to facilitate that. That's the next step in that journey. Is EcoHubs I see as the tool to facilitate our collaboration, all of us on this call, plus everyone in your space, Stefan, to work on building a very usable framework so that communities can take that tool and prosper, ideally, right? This is the altruistic goal, is that every community out there can use what we're building to be better and succeed and be the prototypes and pilot projects we need to see in the world. I think the next step to that is what my attempt was with the Tribes platform. If any of you aren't on the Tribes platform yet, I'd love for you to check it out and like see what that version 1 of a networking education tool was. And Ian and I have now started brainstorming and coming up with what is that next set of tools that can help all of us build real things that lead to physical land projects. So this is like where my mind is right now deeply, right? Meeting you, Stefan, I'm like, oh, that's the puzzle piece I was waiting for the voting interactive DAO-like functionality. And I love that you're doing it Web 2 without adding the Web 3 like bad parts, but just the Web 3 good parts. Super awesome, dude. Edge was really, really good. And so like that, my goal is to keep becoming this transformer that all sticks together and all of our powers combined. We are Captain Planet, Dan, you touched on some stuff in our breakout group that you have any reflections on this? Any perspective? I'd love to hear your point on this.
You mean how to merge it all, or?
On the idea of like, what is this like hub for this movement of individuals, right? The big umbrella, which is all of the people that we know in this space that are entering the space that want to, putting it simply for me, it's change society, redevelop, redesign society, even in micro, like little communities, and that eventually connect to each other and end up covering the globe.
Yeah, so somehow I always end up in, or like to me, what seems really important is like beauty, simplicity, in terms of product development of tools. And
Right.
because any kind of tool that got a real hype and the critical mass, it really put a lot of effort in user experience, that it's easy, understandable, all this kind of stuff. And somehow I
Right.
picture like kind of a map or something, or like a platform where people can see already the good momentums being created, like all the communities, the cultures on the map, and then a way for people to contact each other and break out in Zooms like this. And also, I guess it's like, in some sense, like many small groups that meet and share this kind of stuff. But one component, I see some of this map, and then this super brain, this archive that can support people create this. And then let's say someone wants to create a new community. They could put it as a quest on the map and say, hey, I need a land, I need 10 people. Like they can bring into visibility their needs of the community. Then others can see that and they can join in. So kind of how to bring in the resources that people already have and the intention into visibility seems interesting to me. And then that shared space that's really easy to use, and because a lot of the tools for some people I can imagine it's a bit tricky to get in because for example this Web3 stuff or the crypto stuff, some people have like higher resistance to enter these spaces because these are concepts not very familiar with like regular people or the mass, so to say. But so I'm thinking how to create something that is really accessible to the most, to reach many people somehow.
Yeah. This is like exactly where our minds are as well. Right. With Ian, we've been talking about this and implementing stuff. Go ahead, Stefan.
Yeah, what I have in mind, or my vision, I don't know how you see it, but I was thinking about really a portal where communities can, like physical communities, not online communities, physical communities can sign up, create a community space, invite people from the community, already fill out RCOS, all the things that should be implicit. There could be lots of tools around this. And then they could already build together, stick together their model that they have been using, and we could work on integrating AI on this. So and we can keep it simple, as Dan says. I think it's a very important point to keep it very simple. We can keep it very basic, but maybe that's a good starting point to collect information, also to feed AI,
Right.
and to reach out to these communities, make them active a little bit on that space, already feeding a little bit of. Yeah, we can even maybe open a little knowledge base based on the information we gathered. So there's some value for these groups already, and from there on, I think it's a good starting point to build more. I think this is where we all want to go, no? To get to give regenerative communities a tool that actually makes them resilient and work really well, where they can maybe also vote. All these modules, there's so much we can activate, optionally local currencies in the future, so they can activate it. Every person has their wallet, could be a centralized wallet or something. So they could use it already to trade locally, to experiment with this. So yeah, I think this might be a good start. Yeah, I'm happy to hear all your opinions on this.
I'll add 2 cents on hubs. I propose that it cannot become a hub. That's hierarchy. So what we really need if we want to truly decentralize is recognize that every community is their own center, their own hub. And what they coagulate around and become the center, they find resources that satellite around them. So the design has to recognize diversified hubs of hubs. And if we become a hub, the group trying to create this environment to enable these communities, it will fail. So we have to be sure that we do not hubify because that's old school. That's so old. My thoughts. Thanks. My thoughts.
Okay, but what do you mean, like a hub, like a hub of hubs? My vision, right? I guess I always go to this meta level where like a hub of hubs, where like each project is gonna have its independent things. My mind is now going to like the meta project, which is like maybe what we should be designing is the API set that allows each hub to interrelate with each other, which I think it's tough because everyone's stack is so unique. So it'd be tough to
That's very different. We may even have to come up with a new name for it that's not in the English language yet. So we've got it, but that's where we've got to go.
Exciting.
Do you have any suggestions, Rick?
You're kidding, right?
But like to make that work, there needs to be some like central, like I imagine everyone has their own database. If there was like a neutral, right, the federation database, just using database as an example here, that has most of the let's call them fields that exist in everyone else's unique databases, that if we're all doing community projects, I think will be kind of similar, a lot of them. And then designing, once we understand, I don't know. I'm like, I need to write about this a little bit before I can talk about it more. Sorry.
I think the point that
No, that's good. Talk it out. That's what this is about. We got to talk it out, because what we create is not made yet. If it's really going to work, and that means we don't have the full language to speak to it yet. We're creating that now. This is true manifest. We're not trying to rebuild hubs.
Right.
As an example.
Vic, as you're talking, I'm thinking of Metatron's cube, where all the circles are connected to all the other circles.
Yes. Right. Right.
And you know what creates a center of attention is intention. So what you're focused on becomes the center. What a community focuses on is their center. This is true empowerment. This is how we empower people. If we say, well, you have to go through the hub system in order to get the data, then we've failed, in my opinion. Now, the challenge will be, because of the society that we have as a global society, is this security thing. And it will go away inside the secondary economy that I mentioned that gets created through this. But we are dealing with this monster outside, and it's not going to like what it sees. And we have to be prepared for that. It's just a reality.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm like, I shared kind of where my mind deeply is. Does anyone have any like thoughts they want to share? It's almost 6 here. I don't want to like, I'm enjoying this conversation a lot. I hope everyone else, remember, you're free to like, if you have something to do, feel free to jump out. I definitely want to harvest anything else anyone else is like putting out there, feeling like where their desires are. Right, Dan, it's your first time on this call. Same with you, Stefan, and Rafa. A lot of us have been on these calls for the last couple of weeks and been diligently gathering resources. And now we have a brain to work with. Ian, I just looked at the brain. It's now added all of the context from the transcripts. It's so cool to watch it like growing and like so like we have a brain for an LLM as well now that can be integrated into all of this, which is awesome.
It's very freaking cool.
I was just thinking about 2 processes going on. Like one was that you started with that you already laid up on in the Zoom calls that repeat, and then this other that now spontaneously emerged with this how to collaborate, how to bring in all the tools. And I thought maybe a dedicated space for that could be interesting, to put together the dreams, the shared intentions, the components, to look at it without much linguistic decorations, but what are the essential cores that we see, to put it together, and what can we construct out of it to best help this emergent of communities and cultures, and to see how are we all like aligned on the level. Do we speak the same language? I think yes, but I think it can be interesting to have like a dedicated moment for that. That maybe, I don't know, but because this Zoom thing that you had here, it had like a topic and like this, and maybe it's also good when that continues, but to have it outside somewhere, or is it inside here? Like these were thoughts that come up. Yeah.
So I agree. So right now, Saturdays is this like thematic discussion and exploration. We've added a Thursday call that we also do from 3 to 4:30 p.m., which is more technical. And we focus on the AI, LLM processing and tools that we're building to process all of the data that we capture on Saturdays. I'm very open to adding one more call during the week where we now start talking about these tech tools for this macro movement, right? I think with like Ian, Stefan, Dan, all of us that are here contributing these ideas, but now also specifically technical developers and wizards. I think it calls for this space. Dan, yeah, what day would be good for you guys? We'll be in the US, so EST time zone. So right now it's 6 p.m. or almost 6 p.m. for us. I know Ian is in Cook Islands, so you're 5 hours earlier than us. It's like what, noon for you, almost 1 p.m.
Yep.
Right,
Yeah,
Stefan, you're
Oscar,
EST as well? Yeah.
I'd sort of be keen to not add another day. I think the Thursday day is enough. Like 3 days would be a little bit much for me. But yeah, I think the Thursdays would be a good time. Like they're a good open space. And
cool.
I think this is exactly what we were talking about just before this call, Oscar, was like we're really at that next stage of let's create that space and find that alignment. Like this, the next space will not be a technical space talking about building. It'll be that more higher level thinking about finding the common intention that I think Dan's talking about. It's like, where do we want to go next? So I think I'd be really keen for that.
Okay, so you want to shoot for Thursday? We can do this.
Yeah, and once we get used to the open space, it's going to take quite a bit of time. But the open space approach, we don't need more times. I think Ian's right. We just have to get into a different kind of practice of how we break out with all these subtopics in the time that we have, which are twice now a week.
Yeah, very fair, very fair. So, okay, my next steps is I have a bunch of this in like 2 or 3 different Google Docs. I'm gonna merge all of that and do like an executive summary of my thoughts on this. After being in the space and seeing, right, I shared a link to this Tribes platform. Dan, maybe you can check that out, and you can see that was a V1 of this high-level tool that there's a map with 100+ communities and deep profiles for each of them. As a user, you have a deep profile as well. That my intention was to use that database and connect people with an LLM, now that LLMs are so powerful. And that is, I think, part of the next step for me that I'm going to share in this document with you guys. I'm going to share it. Let's definitely talk about it on the Thursday call, also with a lot of the LLM stuff that we're doing. And Dan, I'd be open to having a one-on-one. Same with you, Stefan. I think we'll definitely be having a one-on-one in the next couple of days. Dan, with you as well, to discuss kind of like, maybe I can share a perspective and you can be like, oh, this would be easy. This would not be so easy. Like, I have technical ability. I can build little web apps, especially now with LLMs. But like, yeah, I'm going to share with you a vision, Dan, that like kind of makes sense to me. Instead of one big app that does a bunch of stuff, it's a series of modular web apps that all link to a unified database. And that maybe, I don't know, I think more seasoned developers can help flesh that out better. Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
Guys, could I propose that we use Eco Hubs as the platform for you to start that conversation, Oscar? Like you're saying, you're going to share the documents. Like, can I propose that you don't put it in Telegram, don't email it? Like, let's use this momentum shift as a way to test out Eco Hubs. And like, there's 13 of us here to try and seed that platform. Yeah, just putting that on the table. How does everyone feel about that?
I mean, this is a question for Stefan. Stefan, do you want to keep Eco Hubs for like framework focused, like the modules for RCOS and the framework that we're working on? Can we expand into like building tech tools to facilitate this movement as well?
Yes, let's put everything in there. Like, let's combine it all. I think it all serves a common purpose. So even if it's about dry toilet, as Ian said, it's part of it. So let's put it in.
Okay,
and if it grows too big, or if it's not suitable anymore because of its size, because of the different topics, we will find a solution, a technical one. That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, cool. Okay, nice. So we can upload documents into Eco Hubs as like reference things or links. I can just do links to the Google Drive or whatever.
Currently not.
Okay, I can just do links. Yeah, I can do links in the proposal to the links in the proposal to the documentation, for example.
Currently, you have chat, and forum. So we could.
We have a forum, so you could upload the things in the forum and start a discussion there. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
let's start seeing
Suggestion,
awesome. From there.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's great. I'm pumped up, you guys. This last couple of like maybe 30, 45 minutes is like part of the most exciting thing. This is what's been like weighing on me the most in the last, I've been like a little bit frozen in the last year between consulting and like trying to catch up on all the tech stuff and feeling motivated, but still not totally there, that I'm like, oh, I know what I need to build and how I need to build it. And I feel like the people in this room have all the answers already. So I'm feeling super motivated right now. Yeah, and grateful for all of you for joining this call and being here. Very cool. All right, so happy Saturday, you guys. This call was good. Does anyone have anything else to add? Anything else you'd like to share? I'm gonna jump off in a few minutes.
Yeah, I would just like to share a thought based on what you said, because of this problem of fragmentation of projects. Maybe it's worth exploring to create a federation that serves, that provides basically what EcoHubs provides as a collaboration space, so we can bring all these different projects together, host them, and exchange there. Maybe it's worth it to explore. Yeah, just wanted to throw that in as planting a seed.
Yeah. I think it's so powerful to have like a brand agnostic like space where different projects feel motivated to bring all of their effort in, not saying like, oh, well, this is my project and like we're in the regenerative space. It's about collaboration over competition. And so I think a brand agnostic thing, the Regenerative Federation or something like this, would be really awesome, so that I can also invite a few other organizations that have hundreds, thousands of participants in their niche into this thing and kind of like commingle. Like, I think that would be one of the most beneficial things in this space.
Yeah, it would be really cool. I mean, I'm not saying this to swim back to what I said. Let's go all on EcoHubs and use that. Not swimming back from that. We can still do it. But additionally, maybe that would be a really cool thing to do and to think about, and to help this movement to grow even faster, and to bring, to have some technical tools to bring all the ideas together. Yeah, because as we say, like, we're all like cooking our little soup. So everyone's cooks their own soup. That's saying in German. So yeah, maybe we can make a big soup together.
Everyone cooks their own soup. Yeah. Let's make a big ass soup, you guys. Okay, cool. Okay, so that's kind of like the next step to this idea of the hub. For us, right, starting with EcoHubs, for us and what we're doing, spreading now to the tool set, and now thinking about this regenerative federation concept. Okay, sweet. All right, you guys. Well, happy Saturday. I'm grateful for all of you. I enjoyed this call deeply. I'm like super pumped. I'm like gonna go look at our brain and see what else I can feed it right now and see how that interacts. I invite you guys all to join the Telegram. There's a ton going on in there. Dan, I'll be messaging you. Stefan, we're in touch already. I don't know. Dan, are you in the Telegram? I don't know how to reach out to you. I think maybe you just joined the Tribes platform, I saw.
Yes, I think I joined the chat. And
okay, cool. Yes. So you're in the Telegram as well. Okay, cool. So I'll be messaging you guys and following up. Rafa, awesome to meet you, man. Thank you for joining this journey. We'll be having to ship stuff for sure, and all of that logistics magic. Logistics is everything in life. Sonia's a logistician as well, so you guys share a magic. Cool, you guys. Happy Saturday. I'm so happy, like, for the new participants. This like tech focus is definitely where my energy's at right now, and where I think we can really make a huge impact on what we're doing and on this space.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys.
Nice to meet you, Stefan, Rafa, Dan. See you next time, guys.
Nice to meet you.
Take care.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you, guys.
Ciao.
Bye.